Glock perfection! Woo! Has there been another Glock as hated and discussed as much as the G44? I truly don't think there has been. Big thanks to my friends over at Big Bear Hunting and Fishing. They're the local gun shop here in Northern Rhode Island that hooked us up with a sweet deal on this G44 so I could bring it to you guys. If you're in southern New England, make sure you head over to Big Bear Hunting and Fishing. A year or two ago, they had a fire, they lost everything, and they're in the process of rebuilding bigger and better than they were before. If you're not in southern New England, you could still check them out online. They have a lot of great deals on long guns, pistols, and accessories. When Glock announced that the G44 was coming out, of course the Glock fanboys rejoiced, and the Glock haters lost their mind.
We already have 22 LR conversion kits for years now.
They were not happy at all, especially when Glock announced that the magazine capacity was only going to be 10 rounds. Then, to make it even worse, they started having reliability issues, and that's when the internet memes just went wild. With all this going on, I said to myself, I gotta get my hands on one of these so I can do a review, a test, and see what's going on. So let's do a very quick tabletop review, and then we'll roll in the range footage. Like every Glock, they come in this accessory case. Besides the pistol, obviously, you get the normal back straps, a second polymer magazine, sticker, cleaning, paperwork, all of the typical stuff that comes with a Glock pistol. The 10-round magazines, like I mentioned earlier, are a polymer magazine, as you would expect with Glock. I know everyone wanted more than 10-round capacity. Glock said they did that for reliability. I'm just the messenger, don't shoot me here. And I'm sure there are some companies working on aftermarket mags, but as of right now, these are the only options. They do have these load assist tabs here. So as you pull down, it helps you load the magazine. Glock recommends you load it flat on a counter and only pull down the tabs far enough to load one round at a time. If you don't know, the G44 is the same exact dimensions as a Glock 19. Same height, length, width, everything. You know, I guess the slide's a tiny bit smaller and some of the dimensions up here are different, but for the most part, it is exactly the same as a G19. The gun will work in all the Glock 19 holsters. The magazines will work in all the Glock 19 magazine holsters. Most of the accessories on the gun are exactly the same as a Glock 19 as well. The trigger is a very familiar Glock trigger, mushy and take up, and you know Glock triggers if you've ever shot one before. Your magazine release is exactly the same. Your plastic sights are very similar. These are adjustable, but very similar to other models as well. The accessory rail on the front, the grip, the takedown lever, the slide release, everything is pretty much the same as a Gen 5 Glock 19. The slide, however, is a little bit different. The slide is polymer on top and steel on the bottom, so it's a hybrid mixture. Where the slide and the frame meet is all steel on steel, while the top of the slide is polymer to lighten it up. And I have a question for you. Who's going to be the first fool to stipple their polymer Glock slide? If you can hear my dog in the back, I apologize. He's a little crazy. Breaking down the G44 is the same as any other Glock out there. Make sure your pistol's unloaded. Pull the trigger in a safe direction. Slightly pull back on the slide. Pull down on the takedown levers on both sides here, and your slide comes right off. And if you look inside it, it is almost identical to a Glock 19. The locking block in some of this area here is a little smaller, but besides that, it is super Glock-esque. Dual captured recoil spring, a little bit lighter than a Glock 19. And then this barrel, guys, cracks me up. Check out how funny this barrel looks. It looks like it's really skinny or hasn't eaten in a while, or I don't know, Glock didn't feed their barrels or something. It really cracks me up. Putting it back together is just as simple. Put the barrel back in, your recoil spring, slide it back on the gun, and you're good to go. As you see, I put this APLC on here. No, I don't tend to use this as a defensive pistol at all. It's only on there so it fits all of my holsters. And that's pretty much the G44 in a nutshell. Like I said, it is a Glock 19 chambered in 22 LR with a light and slide. Before I roll in the range footage though, I have one question for you guys. I want everyone to go down in the comments and guess. Did this pistol run or did I have problems with it? Don't cheat. Don't go skipping ahead. Go down there now. Comment. Let me know what you think. Get comfy, boys and girls, because we shot a ton of rounds and I recorded pretty much all of it because I wanted to be as detailed as possible. I did all this in one day. I didn't clean or take the gun apart at all. All I did was lube it up in the beginning of the day and ran it as hard as I could. I always try to let the magazines hit the ground so they can get dirty and muddy like they normally would. I shot a variety of drills so I wouldn't get bored and to just make the test as realistic as possible. As you can see here, we shot a very wide variety of ammo from standard CCI to Stingers, Winchester, Thunderbolt, standard American Eagle subsonic, more Winchester rounds, Fiocchi subsonic, and Federal Target Performance. Rolling in our first mag impression here. It's a Glock. It feels like a Glock. It loads like a Glock. The trigger is a Glock. It shoots like a Glock. It does everything like a Glock minus the recoil. You know, the first few shots were weird because I was expecting the recoil of a 9 or a 40, and all I got was a 22 LR. But I think rimfire guns are a blast to shoot, so I had fun with it today at the range. Spicing things up a little bit, I did several failure drills. And that's when we had our first malfunction. So I was like, ooh, not starting off the day great. We had a failure to feed, as you can see here. Cleared that out and went back to running failure drills. At this point now, we are already around 200 rounds where we had this magnificent malfunction, our second failure to feed, that kind of went nose up and turned into a stovepipe. And that was a very interesting one. But again, cleared our second malfunction and went back to doing failure drills. And yes, I have been loading them the way Glock recommends, sitting flat on a bench, only loading one round in at a time. So through our first couple hundred rounds, we definitely had a couple little hiccups, but at this point, she started running much better. So I figured it was time to try some different types of ammo. We shot 2 mags of each of these different ammo, starting with American Eagle subsonic. I figured the subsonic was going to be the most likely to cause problems, and the American subsonic was no issue whatsoever. Second, I ran the Remington Thunderbolt because that stuff always has issues in other 22s that I've shot. And I shot 40 rounds of that, 20 rounds of that without any issues. Next was the Fiocchi subsonic, and as you're going to see throughout this video, the Fiocchi subsonic was not our friend today, and we had a failure to eject on the first 20 rounds. Next, we shot the Winchester White X-Pack, no issues there. CCI standard velocity ran like a top, no issues there. American Eagle standard velocity was also excellent. Federal target match was no problem. And then the CCI Stangers, we had no issues with those either. Of course, we had to do some distance shooting. I know it's silly with the 22 reaching it out past 50 yards or so, but it's a tradition, guys. We have to shoot at some distance. So 25 yards was just too easy with the Glock 44. Very quickly went 5 for 5. Backing up to around 35 yards, I was also able to go 5 for 5. We moved back to 50, and this is normally where I kind of struggle with the Glock. With that Glock hump, I've never trained enough and got comfortable enough with them to get over it. However, I was still able to go 5 for 5 at 50 yards. Moving back to 75, this is where things got a little dicey. I went 3 for 6 at 75 yards, and I stopped there because we had a failure to fire. It did seem, however, that the failure to fire there, I got a click instead of a bang, was ammo related, not the firearm. As you see here, the striker obviously hit what I called the primer. I went to go call the primer. I know it's not the primer. It hit the case. very, very well, and it didn't go off, so it looks like that was an ammo-related malfunction. Next, for fun, I shot the FBI shooting qualification, which I know it's kind of silly to shoot with a 22, but I had the targets from another video that I shot recently. This is what the target looked like before I started. I used this target in the beginning of the day already, and as you can see, there's no shots outside of the silhouette. Starting at 3 yards, we shot strong hand only for a couple of rounds, and then we moved to shooting strong hand and support hand only with no issue. Moving back, we shot a few rounds at 5 yards, then a few more rounds at 7 yards, incorporating some reloads. A few more shots at 15 yards, and then we finished up at 25 yards. First standing, and then kneeling. As you can see from the final target, I did pretty good. I pulled 3 shots out here on the left, but I easily passed with a 95 out of 100. Next up on the table, I did some moving and shooting, including from behind cover. It was really an attempt to stay warm. It was freezing out there. The beginning of the day was 12 degrees, and that's actual temperature, not wind chill. It was chilly, so I wanted to move around and get some blood flowing. This is when we had our second failure to fire. Again, I got a click instead of a bang. Waited a little while to make sure it wasn't a hang fire. And then again, this appeared to be ammo related. The striker hit the round very well. You can see the indent here on the round, and it just didn't go off. So I'm chalking that one up to ammo related as well. Next, just because I like the sound of steel, we did some target transitions on steel downrange. There's 5 different targets down there, and I just went back and forth, left to right, hitting them as quickly as I could. And I easily put 100 and 150 rounds just through this drill alone, which takes a long time because, again, I did all of this with just 2 10-round magazines, and that's what really slowed me down, only having 2 10-round magazines. There goes one box of ammo, 500 rounds plus down. Keeping it sexy and spicy, I also shot a dot torture drill. I did pretty well except for shooting one hand, but like I said, I'm not a great Glock shooter, and I definitely don't shoot Glocks one-handed that well. That's something very simple that can be fixed with training, but I don't carry or shoot Glocks ever. Speeding things up a little because I don't want you guys to fall asleep. Next, I did some reload drills, which are always fun. It was a little tough without my Neo Mag, but I pushed through it. It's always tough doing reloads with Glocks, especially with gloves on, but again, I made the best of it. I did a plethora of one-up drills just to burn through some ammo. I did some back to the target drills, hit the buzzer, turn around, a little more moving and shooting. I ran the bill drill several times, and then finally ran the X drill, or a loose version of the X drill, twice. At that point, I was going to call it quits, but I was so close to 1,000 rounds, I said, I'm going to push through for you guys. So I took a quick break. I ran to Dunkin' Donuts, got me a nice little Dunkachino, switched reins, went down to the lower range, and fired the last 200 rounds of the day. The lower range smelt majestic. It smelt like Christmas morning. Pine tree, as you see here, fell the week before, and the range the entire hour I was there smelt fantastic. I shot a good 150 rounds on the plate rack, trying to get them to all knock down, partly with my frozen fingers and the low velocity of a 22 LR. It was very, very difficult to get the plates to fall, but it was fun nevertheless. Moving over to the hanging plates because they make sweet, sweet steel music. I broke out the Fiocchi subsonic ammo again, and I had quite a few more issues. We had 2 more stovepipes, and then we also had a failure to eject. That ammo, I only shot 50 rounds of it, and it's very, very low velocity subsonic, so I can't say I am surprised. At the same time, the subsonic American Eagle ran flawless all 50 rounds. So with the 50 rounds of that Fiocchi subsonic, we had 3 stovepipes, 1 failure to feed, and 1 failure to eject in just those 50 rounds. So this gun definitely did not like the Fiocchi subsonic ammo. It is cold. This is my last magazine. I've been outside for like 7 hours. Let's finish this up in style. Oh, is that 10 hits? Yeah, buddy. So if I did my math correctly, we shot a total of 1,125 rounds. We shot 100 rounds of Winchester, 500 rounds of that Winchester, 325 of that Federal, the American Eagle suppressed 50 rounds, Fiocchi 50 rounds, and then 20 rounds of each of these, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, for a total of 1,125. I never suggest you buy something or don't buy something based on the opinion of one person or on a sample size of one. Glock may have made 10,000 really solid pistols, and an early run that went out to large social influencers, 2 or 3 may have had some problems. On the reverse side of that, Glock may have made 10,000 junk pistols, and I happen to get one of the few good ones. Only time is going to tell whether this gun just has some early issues, some early problems, or if it's a piece of junk. As time goes on, we will all know the answer to that. Like I said earlier, I shot 1,125 rounds today, and my poor little trigger finger is killing me. But in total, we had 4 stovepipes, we had 1 failure to eject, we had 3 failure to feeds, and then we had 3 what I call ammo-related issues or failure to fires. Again, the gun went click instead of a bang. All 3, I could clearly see that the striker hit the round very, very well, but what I'm assuming is bad ammo, the round didn't go off. And as anyone who has spent time around rim fire knows that that's a pretty common thing, and I don't usually blame the gun for that. Finally, I had twice the slide didn't lock to the rear, but I have a very bad habit of riding the slide stop, slide release if you've seen my high up grip. So 99% chance that that was my fault, the slide didn't lock to the rear. With all that said, the low velocity subsonic Fiocchi ammunition caused the vast majority of the malfunctions. In only 50 rounds, that ammo alone had 3 of the stovepipes, it had 1 failure to eject, and 1 failure to feed. So if you remove that ammo from the total, the gun in well over 1,000 rounds only had 1 stovepipe and 2 failure to feeds. Again, the 3 failure to fires and the 2 times the slide locked to the rear, didn't lock to the rear. I don't blame the gun for that. That was probably bad ammo or bad grip on my part. So what do you guys think? Would you accept these numbers? Would you be happy with this? Being it's a rimfire pistol, would you accept it? And granted, it's a sample size of 1, so take it for what it's worth. And it's only 1,000 rounds, not the end of the world. But would you be happy with these numbers? So I will continue to shoot this pistol and make it much, much dirtier than you see here. But this is what the muzzle looks like after those 1,100 rounds. We got it good and dirty. Inside, I'm sure, is just as nasty. I'm going to do an update video either at 2,500 rounds or 5,000 rounds, or maybe even both. We'll see how it goes. Once it warms up a little bit more, I want to get my kids out there and have my kids spend some time with this gun as well, and I'll collect all that footage and give you guys an update. For now, I'll say so far so good, and we'll see what the future holds. Anyway, as always, thank you very much for watching my videos. It is truly, truly appreciated. I hope I brought some value to this Glock 44 debacle. If you could, do me those 2 quick favors. Please click the like button. If you're still here watching this very long video, you must have enjoyed it. So please click subscribe. Really helps us out, and you get notified when we come out with new videos. I'll see y'all next time. Peace!